Well, I go by Mindy Thorp. It's nice to be here. Melinda, because it's, U.S. Census Bureau and everything is very long, technical. I'm only Melinda when I buy a house or a car, but hi, everybody. It's really great to be here. I am with the U.S. Census Bureau, and 2020 is a decennial census. This is so great. I just need a little spinning pedestal. So yes, decennial census has been happening since 1790. It is mandated by our Constitution that we have not only a population count, but a housing count every 10 years. So 2020 is the year. I've been working in this position for the last 6 months. I came from a nonprofit for about 9 years, and I am having the best time ever with this content. It's really amazing, really important to make sure that we are all counted once and only once and in the right place. So that's easier said than done, but on the table I had some flyers, or just one flyer, just an informational flyer, and big picture stuff. I want to make sure I just kind of did, what do you call it, a 30,000 mile high kind of overarching picture here. My contact information is on that form. If you have any opportunities for me to speak to your groups, agencies, any speaking opportunities, engagements, whatever the case may be, the key to this is old school grassroots efforts. We need to get the education and awareness out of what the census is and what it isn't. There are a lot of misconceptions that I'm finding, a lot of inaccuracies, and we just need to make sure that our community is educated, what the census does, what the population numbers do, and that we have representation in the House, that we have the federal funds going to the right programs. There are over $800 billion distributed annually amongst the different states, depending on the census numbers. So currently, the state of Idaho is getting over $3 billion of that, $800+ billion annually. But think about it this way: if we don't have a complete count, we get this count every 10 years. It's kind of a one and done thing. If we break that down per person, per capita, and we have an undercount in Kootenai County, there's roughly 160,000-ish people. What our data is telling us is that we could potentially, have a non-response as high as maybe 20% of our population in this county. So that is a lot of people that could be undercounted. And then when we look at that on a dollar figure, that's a lot of money on an annual basis. And then you have to remember that's over a 10-year span of time until the next census comes out in 2030. So we want to make sure that we have the resources we need. Hey, I love North Idaho. I live here for a reason, and I like my privacy. The privacy is an important thing. We have a lot of documentation on the confidentiality of the questionnaire that comes out mid-March of 2020. All the information that you respond to is protected by Title 13 of the U.S. Code. It's protected for 72 years. After 72 years, those answers that you reply to on that census questionnaire is released to the National Archives, and then sites like Ancestry.com use that information after it's released 72 years later to get their information. So confidentiality is very, very important, and but the big picture is it is also a housing count. They are using Google Earth from 2010 to 2020, and I'm sorry to tell you, but your home is pretty much known wherever you're living and wherever you're at. It's somewhere in the sky in a satellite somewhere, and so you want your fair representation. You want you to be counted. We all still need to make sure that our resources are there for us. If our child or grandchild falls and cracks their head open, we need to make sure that we have the EMS services available to us. And we also are very aware that we have an influx of people coming up to this area. We are, again, the fastest growing state in the nation. Well, Nevada's tied with Idaho this year. If we're not prepared for that influx, you know, we will all pay the price. And if you just got to go up and down 95, you know, one time to see the traffic jams.
When does the actual counting start?
It actually starts as early as, well, mid-March. Thank you for that question. Mid-March, you will all get something in the mail, and it will be an invitation to respond. Actually, this is the first time ever that you can respond online by internet for your questionnaire.
That'll be 2020?
That'll be 2020. So mid-March of 2020, the first invitations go out. They have been working on the internet piece of this for well over a decade. They wouldn't release it until they were ready to deal with any kind of confidentiality issues. And then about the end of March, there'll be another postcard sent out. If you have not responded by internet, it's all live data coming in. They'll send you that second postcard. You can respond by internet, phone, paper form, which is, you know, usually typically the most traditional way people have responded in the past is by the paper form. But if you don't respond in any of those fashions, you can potentially have someone coming to your door to count you and to make sure your housing unit is there. One last thing about the boots on the ground operations, we are still hiring lots of boots on the ground operations people, great positions for retired folks, college students. They pay between $13 and $15 an hour, flexible hours, paid weekly. You must be 18 years old, a U.S. citizen, and able to pass a background check and fingerprints. But hey, we're all gun owners here, so we've already done that, right?
One question. So I recall there was going to be a U.S. citizenship question on this. Is that going to stand?
That was actually in the news today. Oh. So that did go. There's no ruling. The answer is as of yet there's no ruling, but the judges did seem to side on the conservative side.
It's at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and so I think the article today said June that the decision. I mean, and there's some gray area there, and a little worried folks in the printing department because they have to print these forms, right? And they need to know whether that question is going to be on there or not. But currently there's 11 questions on the questionnaire, and that is one of them. Congress did approve that to be on there as of this minute. Yes.
I know you've only been in your position for 6 months, but are you privy to information historically from the last census as to how many people essentially refused to reply to anything other than what the Constitution called for, and that is how many people are in the structure, and that was it?
I don't know exactly to that detail, but there is an application, a live application on census.gov/ROAM, ROAM, and you can go in this interactive tool and you can look all over the country. Specifically, you could go in the search and put a zip code, a county, a city, and you can see what the non-response rates have been.
Is that considered to be a non-response if all they are responding to is what the Constitution calls for?
I believe that those are people that have not responded at all in the past data.
So you don't have any history of how many people responded to the bare minimum?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Will a non-response invalidate an internet query?
If they don't respond by
Are there starred questions on the internet form that will
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, you know, when we're on an online form and you can't really continue until
Exactly.
A cell is completed. You know, I don't know that. I was privy to see a copy, a draft form of the actual questionnaire, the paper form, but I haven't been privy to see what it looks like on the internet yet. They haven't released anything about the internet. But my understanding is you can complete what you want to complete on the form. That was the last conversations I remember having, but I don't know that for sure.
Thank you.
Can you confirm if this is true? Federally required is that we only fill out the short form, not the long form. The short form is name, sex, age, relationship, race, and if your home is owned. The long form is marital status, language disability, veteran status, grandparents, monthly income, how many vehicles you have, telephone number.
Flush toilets.
Yes, so the concept is that what people, I wonder, and please confirm if I understand it, it's like when people come to the door, instead of asking what is constitutionally required, which is the short form, which I think what you're asking is, will the short form be answerable on the internet? They press everyone that I know of for the long form, which nobody's gonna give you all that information. So can you please confirm that what I understand is true, and I believe the question that you're asking, John, is will the short form be available through the internet?
So I think what the confusion is there is also a survey called the American Community Survey. That is typically that long form. That is one of over 130 surveys that do come out from the Census Bureau. That is not a mandatory one. The only one mandatory is the decennial, because this one is short. This one is not as long as that American Community Survey. There's 11 questions. I do have a form on why we ask which question.
Here's a census. It's short form, long form. It's the short form is just the number of people if you own your home. Everything else is optional. Not that's Census Bureau right here,
Yeah.
which is true. But I don't understand. Like when you guys come to our door, you kind of press us like we need to tell you more than how many people live here and this is our house. And that's where you get a lot of pushback, which by the way sets a lot of these things. This is my house. I have 20 people who live here. Thank you very much. Like, but you want to know, how much I make. Thank the Lord, they're not asking how many guns we have yet. But their concept is, yeah. So, I mean, are you saying that there is not a short form and long form census?
No, there is just the 11 questions period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me, we're just under a year out. And
We are.
And so I wanted the committee to kind of see your face and get your name and your contact information in case you have any questions. But I'd like to invite you back, maybe a couple months out. Our committee has a lot of interface with people in the community and their neighbors.
Sure.
And I want them to be fully informed in case the question of the census comes up. It only happens once every 10 years, so we could all use a refresher course. So
Yeah.
I would like to invite you back.
Well, thank you.
we'll
I
make that
appreciate just being here tonight.
Probably in the January timeframe
Sure.
or maybe November.
Yeah, and Mayor Whitmire just announced a proclamation on April 1st of 2019, the 1 year out mark. So we are now within that 1 year out, and we still have a lot of work to do to make sure we get that education and awareness out. So my contact information is on that piece of paper on the bottom. So thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you
I
very much for
appreciate
coming.
that, and
Thank you.
we'll